I'm going to demo this big ziti recipe. And so the first thing I've done is preheated my oven to 400 degrees. And I'm just going to make sure I have my pie pan and my fork right here nearby. One of the secrets or the tricks we use in this recipe is that we do all of our mixing directly in the pie pan. So that way you have fewer stuff or fewer bowls to wash up at the end. Okay, so let's make sure you have all your ingredients ready to go. We have tomato sauce. We have cottage cheese. I like to use cottage cheese because it is significantly cheaper than ricotta. But if you want to get ricotta, you can. And also, I just find like having leftover cottage cheese is something that we can snack on during the week. And then I have separated out my cheese into the cheese that I'm going to be mixing into my ziti and the cheese I'm going to be sprinkling on top. I also have my spices, which is some garlic powder, basil, and oregano. And of course I have my salt in a little pinch pot, which is the way I prefer to have it. So in addition to having measured out all of your ingredients, you're also going to want to make sure that you've already cooked your pasta. This takes 10 minutes. I am using whole grain penne. You are welcome to use any type of pasta your family likes. I like to use whole grain because it adds in a little bit more fiber and protein, so it makes the dish a little bit healthier. So the first step is to take your sauce, cottage cheese, and spices and just mix it all together in this pan. And it's going to be a little bit messy, maybe. I don't know if messy is the right word. Sloppy. It does save us the trouble at the end of having to wash a separate bowl. And then I'm putting on my cottage cheese. If you have a spatula, that would be a good idea, just to help get some of that sauce out because it did get stuck in my container. And I have my cheese, and this I can just dump in. I will be working on fine motor skills later when I sprinkle the cheese. And my spices. And I'm using garlic powder today instead of fresh garlic because I don't like the texture of garlic chunks in my pasta. And then again, just like a couple pinches of salt. I am using no salt added pasta sauce, or I'm just using regular tomato sauce. If you have salt added, then you may want to add a little less salt. There's also salt in my cheese and in my cottage cheese, so I don't need as much salt as I may be putting into a dish that has no salt added tomato sauce and none of that salt from the cheese. So it's just a little recommendation to make sure you're checking all of the labels, the nutrition fact labels of your ingredients to see where is the sodium coming from, because it does tend to sneak into our food and things that we wouldn't even think it's in. And when I pick my pie pan, I want to make sure I have enough space to do the mixing without making a mess. Now I'm going to pour in my pasta. And I prefer my big ziti to be really gooey. If you prefer a little bit drier, you can always add in a little more pasta. Instead of doing the ratio in the recipe, you can actually increase it by about 50%. So we have, I think it's about a cup of pasta. You can maybe go up to a cup and a half. The texture will be different, but everything else will be the same. So I'm going to mix this up and make sure that I really get everything nice and mixed. I don't want to have any clumps of just plain pasta here. All of the flavor is in the sauce, cheese, spice mixture. So definitely want to make sure that everything gets covered up. Now, because I happen to be a professional chef, my mixing is not as messy. When I have my kids work on this, they tend to have sauce going all the way up the side of the pan. So just, keep an eye on that. Now that I have everything in here, I'm just going to pat it down nicely. I am tapping my fork off. I don't like to wipe my finger on my fork because then my hand gets dirty and then the next thing that I touch gets like sauce and cheese all over it. So I'm just trying not to touch anything with my hands. I say that as I open up my cheese to sprinkle, except for my cheese. And this is, again, a fine motor skill, so we're going to try to encourage our kids to pinch and sprinkle. Sometimes they will be really excited and they may start just like doing the dump, just take it and just dump all the cheese all over. So make sure that before you get them involved, you've gone over the instructions and shown them in the recipe card we are using our hands to sprinkle. So that's it. That's how simple it is. I'm going to throw this in the oven for 20 minutes. And then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, we've just pulled our ziti out of the oven, so you can see that the cheese on top is fully melted. If you look closely around the edges here, you can see there's a little bit of bubbling. That's what you're going to be looking for when it's done. And because we mixed it up in the pan, there's a little bit of sauce that got baked onto the side. So once you're done with your ziti, I would just recommend soaking your pan to to make it easier to wash it off.